30 miles from the Great Lakes, a former go-to destination was abandoned when a new law transformed America.
So we're in northern Michigan, center of the Great Lakes, few miles from the border of Canada, which means the winters get pretty cold.
There's a network of roads and various buildings, but they're in some state of decay.
Hundreds of buildings lay empty. One is larger than the rest.
One of the buildings is much larger than all the others. It's painted this brilliant green color, and it's sitting beside the lake, which is now frozen.
Vestiges of small-town America mark where people used to gather.
Elsewhere, there's a small shop that clearly closed some time ago. Perhaps it was one of the last businesses left standing?
These buildings are what's left of a thriving community that sought peace and prosperity. But 6 decades ago, a turning point in American history drove the people away. This land was once home to hundreds of people. Blair Evans is part of a small community that remains.
We moved back here 2 years ago and have been here full-time since, but I've been involved in the community a lot for, my entire life.
Decades ago, thousands of people would make the journey to northern Michigan. Most were drawn to one wooden building by the roadside.
This was a major hub of activity, day and night. This area was just extraordinarily active.
This is the Flamingo Club, a music hall for some of the biggest stars of the 1950s. The Four Tops, Sam Cooke, and Sammy Davis Jr. They all came to perform at Idlewild.
What Idlewild is definitely a multifaceted question. And so what Idlewild is in the minds of people who are familiar with the institution of Idlewild and the myth of Idlewild is a kind of oasis.
There was hunting, there was fishing, there was boating, there was swimming. Everything that people might want to do on an all-American vacation.
Tens of thousands of holidaymakers flocked to this country resort in northern Michigan. To some, Idlewild went by another name. They called it Black Eden. Blair Evans was just a boy when famous musicians came here.
Actually, there were a couple doors to kind of peek in, depending upon how knowledgeable you were of the operations. There was also a door in the back. Yeah, we had been known to sneak past the first line of defense and kind of take a peek and see what folks were doing.
But Idlewild was unique among resorts. Since the 1930s, it was one of the few safe havens for Black Americans, even in the integrated North.
One thing about segregation in the South is that it was mandated by law, but in the North, you had separation by custom, by practice. And so in the North, blacks and whites, for example, would live in largely separate neighborhoods. The children would go to separate schools. What happened in reality was that separate was rarely equal.
When Black Americans faced racism, some entrepreneurs saw an opportunity to make money.
Idlewild was actually started by 4 white entrepreneurs. They possibly had a moral purpose behind their enterprise, but they also realized the potential to tap into the Black dollar.
Idlewild was probably the most popular vacation destination for African American families.
It is said that there'd be 25,000 people here on a weekend, which is just an absurd number of folks. People from Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit, all the cities around would really come into the area. So it was really huge during that time period.
I always wanted to go to Idlewild to see what it looked like as a vacation spot, as a resort, as a town. I just wanted to see what the community looked and felt like.
But for some, Idlewild was more than a summer retreat. It became a place for Black business to thrive. Herman and Leela Wilson were some of the first settlers.
They live right across the street, and that small garage you can see right behind it is actually where the grocery store started.
The Wilsons sold holiday homes and built a store to provide for the residents.
They started a small setup in the little garage attached to their house and really discovered that they were the need. I mean, as far as groceries are concerned, you could get pretty much everything you needed here.
But now, businesses like Wilson's and the Flamingo Club are closed. Rows of holiday homes are empty. Guest numbers plummeted in the summer of 1964.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a high point of the civil rights movement, and it removed key barriers that African Americans face. So it meant greater mobility, access, and opportunity.
What that does is it sets the table for Black folk no longer wanting to just live in the Black community. Now, people are like, no, we no longer need the safe haven that this place once provided. We feel empowered and emboldened to go to some of these white places now.
Black Americans flocked to vacation spots all across the United States. Idlewild's unique selling point had gone.
Everybody went and explored everything, and that's perfectly understandable. And Las Vegas started pulling a lot of acts. Atlantic City started pulling a lot of acts. They had access to capital that entrepreneurs in Idlewild did not have.
By the end of the 60s, Idlewild had only a fraction of the guests it once had. The heady days as America's Black Eden were over.
We in America of African descent wear a mask. We have two faces. We have the face for white America that we put forward, then we have the face that we put forward when we're within our tribe. So at a place like Idlewild, you were with your tribe. So you could let down your guard, you could be authentic, and you could have a deep sigh of relief.
For 6 decades, people like Blair have kept the resort open, keeping the flame lit at America's Black Eden.
There really is an amazing depth of self-reliance, entrepreneurship, self-determination that really emerged in this place when it wasn't in other places. And I think that can point us towards a lot of possibilities for the future, in addition to kind of understanding the past.